So let's move on to culture. One of the big parts of Trump's campaign was talking about political correctness. So Kyle, I want to get your thoughts on this. After a few years, how are we doing on that issue? Where do you draw the line? And generally, how do you think our political climate has improved or gotten worse since that time?
I mean, honestly, this kind of bores me, this topic, because it's like, okay, whatever, political correctness. I think I'm relatively politically incorrect. I say things that piss people off all the time. I mean, it is what it is. But my problem with the right is that oftentimes they take this term of political correctness, and what they really want to do is use that as an excuse to say things that are factually incorrect. So when Donald Trump goes out there and he says, for example, like he did on the campaign trail, that we need a total and complete shutdown of Muslims coming into this country, that's not politically incorrect. That's just incorrect. You're just a dick, because there's like 1 billion people who are Muslims, and they're not all guilty for the sins of Al-Qaeda. So yeah, that's my take on it. I think I'm politically incorrect myself, but I think that oftentimes people on the right use it to get away with saying things that are just factually incorrect.
Charlie.
So I guess the question is, are we more or less politically? I mean, look, it depends on where you live in the country. I mean, in California, it's perfectly fine to border jump or line cut to come into our country, but if you misgender someone, you could face prison time in California. So
that's totally not true.
It is. The law is on the books. There is a law on the books that if you're an employee of the state government of California,
which overrides any state law.
If you misgender someone as an employee of the state of California intentionally, you could potentially go to prison for workplace harassment.
Don't
that is
clap
speech
at that.
police.
This is hyperbolic nonsense. We have the First Amendment, and that's the supreme law of the land.
Opinion. You're not entitled to your own facts. I visit college campuses all the time. A lot of what you say is
I know you're so oppressed, bro. Go wear a diaper again.
I visit college campuses all the time, and I'll tell you, Kyle, if you saw, and I think if you're intellectually honest, you'll agree with this, that the speech police that happens all across the country, where it's telling people that they can't say certain things, where they're cracking down on saying America's the greatest country in the history of the world, I have to say that these are the types of things that should be really concerning. And there is a death of free speech in this country, and people like Bill Maher really respect that and understand that.
I agree with that too.
And that stems from political correctness, right? That comes from the speech police, but you're really only seeing it on one side.
No, that's not true at all. I believe in free speech, which is why I think Colin Kaepernick should be in the NFL right now.
Well, Colin Kaepernick was never fired from the NFL because he decided to kneel during the national anthem. He's not in the NFL because he's a horrible quarterback.
Yeah, look at all these NFL experts over here. I'm sure they know what they're talking about.
If Colin Kaepernick was any sort of decent quarterback and not throw 14 interceptions and only 8 touchdowns in his last season with the San Francisco 49ers, of which they are now undefeated thanks to Jimmy Garoppolo doing a lot better than they were under Colin Kaepernick. Kyle, this is very interesting. Do I believe that Colin Kaepernick had a right to be a fool and kneel during the national anthem? Absolutely. Being civilly disobedient is a right. But you know what? I also have a right to call him unpatriotic and disrespectful for kneeling during the national anthem.
You know what?
While it is paid as a try to tribute to our veterans.
Excuse me. Why is it that when left-wing people protest and when they dissent, all of a sudden it's unpatriotic and you hate America? Why can't it just be, no, these are my ideas and I think these would fix the country even if you don't agree? See, I'm willing to grant you that whatever you say, you actually are saying it because you want to fix the country. But why is it that you don't give lefties that respect? All of a sudden when there's somebody on the left, you think, oh no, it's because you hate America. That's why you're saying X, Y, and Z.
So before we get to Charlie Kirk's response, let me take a stab at that Kyle KKK Kulinski. All right, bruh? All right, dude? Let me go ahead and take a stab. Why is it that when the left does it, it's unpatriotic? Why is it when the left does it, it's just bad for America? How come we don't do the same thing when people on the right have ideas? I'll tell you why, Kyle KKK Kulinski. It's because I can give you examples of the ideas that are unpatriotic. I can give you ideas that are bad for America. Let's talk about transgenderism. Let's talk about that men can be women, women can be men. Let's talk about the fact that a man can go into a woman's bathroom or a woman's shower just because he feels like it. How about, like Charlie just said in California, that at the state level, if you intentionally misgender somebody, you potentially could face fines or go to jail. How about that? How about being, in terms of, doing things that are going to destroy the fabric of the country? What about the border? Huh? The open border policies of this country. Now, you can say that has nothing to do with patriotism. Okay, fine, but it has to do with the safety and concerns of the United States of America. I could go on and on and on. Colin Kaepernick, like Charlie Kirk says, he wants to kneel on the flag. You know what? Free country, freedom to protest, freedom to do whatever the heck you want, as long as it's peaceful, fine. But if I want to, I can say that's unpatriotic. I can say that's unbecoming. I wouldn't do that type of thing. It's like people when they burn the flag. You've got a First Amendment right to do it. But I would say that's being unpatriotic to your country. Other people around the world don't go around burning their flags of their country. Not that I know of. I mean, unless there's some type of military coup or something going on or whatever. But this is the United States of America. Anyways, folks, this is what we have on tap for you today. You're watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I'm your host. My name is Dr. Nasir, where I give you my political prescription from my political perspective of what's happening when all these things collide. Like at a debate with Charlie Kirk and Kyle, KKK, Kulinski, social media, culture, religion, science, politics, policy, government, come crashing together. Let's get to the answer to Kyle's KKK Kulinski's question by Charlie Kirk. We'll do that right now.
Why? So the tradition of the national anthem that was incorporated post-World War II in the National Football League and was instituted was to try to remember veteran sacrifice during World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. Thank you for your service, thank you for your service. And the reason that Colin Kaepernick was being selfish is during a moment when you're supposed to be somber and reverent, when you're supposed to reflect on the blood and the sacrifice that veterans put, he decided to make the cameras point at him, not point at the veterans, not point at the flag. It was selfish for him to do that, to try to misrepresent a highly complex issue that is criminal justice reform at a very bizarre time to do it during the singular time in a sports ceremony. We take a moment to remove our hats and put our hands over our heart to remember the veterans that gave everything so that we can live in the greatest country ever to exist in the history of the world.
Charlie, whenever what do people like Charlie say?
Destroy buildings? Yeah, I'm going to speak against them.
Yeah, but what do you say when that happens? They go, you know what? My only issue with these people is if only they would protest police brutality through peaceful methods, I would be okay with it. And then Colin Kaepernick does exactly that, and you flip on him.
No, again, I said he has a right to do that. I also have a right to critique his decision. And so
and you have a right to be wrong.
Of Baltimore during the movement, the mayor of Baltimore, while all this was happening, remember she said, we need to give our people space to riot. I mean, there's nothing admirable about destroying property in your own community when you're trying to protest injustice or brutality. I'm not sure what kind of argument you're trying to make.
The point, right over your head. I agree with you. Rioting is bad. That's why I think what Colin Kaepernick did is good, because he's protesting through peaceful means.
Of course. Sure. So, and I'm saying he was being a selfish individual that was all about himself during a ceremony that was all speaking about veterans. So we're talking in circles here, broader about political correctness. I'm not the one that's going to say Colin Kaepernick should not have a right to do that. In fact, I defended his right to be incorrect and his right to be selfish and his right to be wrong. That's what makes this American experiment so special. I will say this, and the rise of political correctness and the rise of division in this country, you only see political violence predominantly on one side, and that is Antifa. You do not see Trump supporters wearing Make America Great Again hats, waiting outside of Bernie Sanders rallies, punching them in the face. You do not see people wearing MAGA hats, assaulting gay journalists in the streets of Portland where no people are arrested. You do not see people wearing
nationalist
MAGA hats,
terrorism,
punching left-wing people in the face. Something of which, very important point, Kyle. Guess what? I denounce it. The president denounces it, yet half the people running for the Democrat Party have not denounced Antifa. Why do people running for the Democrat nomination not denounce Antifa?
Oh, yeah, bro.
A
Bernie Sanders is
paramilitary
pro-Antifa.
organization that goes around and pounds people on the head if they dare disagree with them. Could you imagine for a second if people were wearing MAGA hats and going and beating journalists in the streets?
I can, because they
would
did it
be
as
rightfully
rallies.
arrested. So we want to talk about culture. Show me where conservative Antifa is. Show me a well-funded, well-organized an organization that was not denounced by the president or people like it that go after political opponents. You can't find it, and there's a reason why the Democrats will not denounce Antifa. It's because if you want to see the face of the Democrat Party, I'll show it to you. They're wearing a mask.
All right, Kyle gets the last word on this.
Listen. Charlie You're not debating the Democrats. You're debating Kyle Kulinski. If you just asked me, it would have been very simple.
What do you think of Antifa?
Do I denounce Antifa? Yes. I denounce political violence. But I think it's really interesting that you started this whole rant by acting like political violence is only on the left. That's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life.
I said predominantly. So show me a singular instance where there are people wearing MAGA hats waiting outside of a leading Democrat.
I'll do you one better. How about a guy named Caesar Sayoc who murdered people with a fucking MAGA hat on?
And he sent bombs to Republicans. He sent bombs to Democrats. That guy was mentally unhinged, and I'm not going to defend him, and I'll denounce him.
Good.
Or how about the shooter in Dayton, Ohio, that said Elizabeth Warren was his hero, and then he went and shot 10 people? What about that, Kyle?
Oh, Elizabeth
we can go
Warren,
back and forth all day long with
real dangerous.
Or how about the guy that
Warren.
shot up the congressional baseball field that loved Bernie Sanders? We can go back all day long.
All
Kyle.
right, we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on from this. All right, let's.
Well, that went down pretty fast. I mean, Kyle, KKK Kulinski, just started, I mean, F-bombing, using, personal attacks against, Charlie. I mean, that was just absolutely, that was completely uncalled for. And you saw at one point, Charlie just sort of looked at him. I think he wanted to say something, but he composed himself and he went back on point and kept driving home his points or whatever. So once again, Kyle's showing the true colors of the left because they're arguing. And are there instances where people that claim to be on the right, the extreme far right, have done acts of violence? Absolutely. But we tend to see it, if you were to take it and you really want to be intellectually honest, it's just no absolute comparison. But what do people like Kyle, KKK Kulinski bring up? They bring up the KKK, white supremacist. When's the last time that you heard of a group of white supremacists running around in masks, perpetrating violence on people outside a building, outside a rally that happened, a rally for Bernie Sanders or a Democrat rally, or something that people are doing on the left, and you see the white supremacists out there in force? It's never there, folks. It's never there. There is no right side Antifa. And these are not anti-fascists. They've coined a very nice word. The Democrats use linguistic lingo very well. They use modifiers very well. Antifa has nothing to do with anti-fascism. It has everything to do with fascism. Usually how you do this, you take a look at what the Democrats say, you look at it and you turn it inwards, and then you know exactly what the Democrats are doing and saying and talking about. Because what they are putting out there is projecting from what they themselves do onto what others that don't do it, but they want you to think they're doing it. Anyways, folks, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. I've been your host, Dr. Nasir. If you haven't done so already and you like our content, hit that subscription button, like, share, and follow us. You all know what to do. Take a look at our other video links above and below. My final thought, as always, when you're right, you're right. And when you're left, well, you're just like Kyle, KKK Kulinski. You're just an idiot and you're wrong. Until next time, folks, take care and stay safe.